Good evening and welcome to People's Church. This day we come once more together as winds of earth call forth our names. My people all, from the strength of this circle, may we come rejoicing, determined, and united in love of life again. I am so glad you are with us. So this evening, we have focused our service on moving through strong emotions, because I know this is a season, if you can call a year and a half a season, when a lot of us have been dealing with more fear, more sadness, more anger, more grief and loss than we usually do. And that is hard to bear. So if you are experiencing any of that this evening, you are especially welcome. And if you are showing up tonight joyful and hopeful and at peace, you are also especially welcome. And I hope that you will be able to hear the stories and the practices that we are presenting tonight and file those away for the next time you might need them. So whoever you are, however you feel, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome. And come, let us worship together.
Again, welcome. Welcome to this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. People's Unitarian Universalist Congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We are not here because we figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another. My name is Becky Moffett-Moore, and I'm from the Sunday Services Committee. I would like to extend a welcome to everyone gathered here this evening, though we are spread afar. Whether you're new or a regular at People's Church, To those of you who are visitors to our service or here for the first time, thank you for being with us this evening. Now let us move into worship, willing to be authentic with each other, honest within ourselves, and opening to connection in all its forms.
So I have a few announcements to offer this evening. The first is that our church bazaar is just 6 days away. So it will be outdoors on the in the parking lots next Saturday. And it will be scaled down. So it will be just our artists and our specialties. And if you've not already signed up to help or invited your contacts, here are some ways you can help make this scaled down bazaar a success. So first, invite people that you know to attend. You should have a copy of the flyer in your email, and there are hard copies at the church if you want to stop by and pick those up to post. So many folks have going to the People's Church Bazaar as part of their November routine, and we need to help them know that this year it should be part of their September routine. I'm telling my neighbors that they can be very impressive on their holiday shopping if they get it done before October. So if you are a baker or a crafter or make other sorts of specialty foods, we will have our people's specialty tables. So things like jams and sauces, cookies, candy, snack mixes, breads, and crafts are all requested and are all a terrific fundraiser for us. So you can let the church know what you're doing, either on the website or you could call the church office. We will be requiring masks. So if you come, wear a mask. If you invite people, let them know that. If you are coming and able, please park at Center Point Church and ride a shuttle, because that will leave our parking for our other shoppers. So thank you so much for all you have done and all you continue to do to make this success. Another announcement from our bylaws committee. The proposed revisions of the bylaws are available on the church website. And the first informational meeting, a place to share feedback and ask questions and propose changes, will take place before the in-person service on the 26th, so next Sunday. And there will be many options over the next few weeks on Zoom and in person to give feedback. They've done a tremendous amount of work. And so I invite you to let them know what you think of it, because we are smarter when we all collaborate and share our ideas with each other. And so now, one of the joys of joining us on Zoom is that you can sing loudly if you want to, and no one else will hear it. And so I will play our first hymn of the day, and I invite you to sing or to listen or to just engage with the music, however makes the most sense for you.
I am worn, I am tired, in my quiet sorrow. Hopelessness will not let me be. Help me. I won't speak of this ache. Inside light eludes me. In the silence of my heart, I'm I keep on day by trusting light will guide me. Will you be with me through this time, holding me? You're my hope when I fear, holding on, believing. Deep inside I pray I'm strong, blessed be.
If you are lighting a chalice at home, you are encouraged to type in the chat box. A chalice is lit in your neighborhood, your city, or your street. A Chalice Lighting for When Things Aren't Okay by Molly Brewer. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you, that everything is okay right now, that there's no reason to be angry. You must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend these things, and so I won't tell them to you. But now our chalice is lit, and so I ask in this moment is that we remember the words of Rebecca Parker. There is love. There is love holding us. There is love holding all. By the light of our chalice, let us rest in this love.
Our story this evening is a Buddha story. It's one of my very favorite stories to tell about community and how we show up for each other in hard times. And I believe any story worth sharing once is worth sharing a lot of times. And so in the video, you will see that this was not recorded in this season. And so you can see the snow on the ground and all of that. But again, it's worth hearing again.
Unlike the Buddha, Kisa Gotami grew up very poor. She was often very hungry, weary, tired, and weak, and that is how she got the name Kisa, which means fragile. When she married into her husband's family, she was not treated very well because she came from such a poor background. It wasn't until she gave birth to her son that she was regarded and treated kindly and warmly in her husband's family. Her son was the light of her life. She had never felt so much love and so much joy as she did when she cherished that little boy. So it was that when one day, tragically and suddenly, he died from illness, she was devastated, heartbroken with grief. She ran around with her baby in her arms, begging for help from anyone who would listen. Someone help me, help me. I need some medicine to bring my baby back to life. The people laughed at her like she was mad, but there was one man who walked by her in the street and he said, "Oh, this poor woman has gone mad from grief." "Hello," he said, "I know who can help you." And he brought her to the monastery where the Buddha was teaching. "Teacher, teacher," she cried, "I am Kisa Gotami. Help me. My baby has fallen ill and I need some medicine to bring him back. The Buddha looked down upon the baby's lifeless face and he said, you have come to the right place. I can help you. But first, you must do something for me. I need you to go back to the village and ask and bring back to me a mustard seed. Her face lit up with joy. Why, surely she could do that. But, he said, it must come from a household who has not experienced death. And when you bring the seed back to me, I shall be able to find the medicine for your son. She went off immediately back to the village and started knocking on doors. And the first door she came to, the woman said, why, sure, I'd be happy to share a mustard seed with you. For they were common in cooking in India at the time. But as she placed the mustard seed in her hand, Kisa remembered the special instruction and said, oh, I must ask, has anyone from your household died? Yes, said the woman, my husband passed just 6 months ago, and tears filled her eyes. And Kisa said, yes, I'm sorry, that is not the mustard seed. I must continue on my search, and I am sorry for your loss. And as she came to the next house, a gaggle of children gathered around, and she knocked on the door, and a young woman answered, and she said, I am seeking special medicine for my son. I am looking for a mustard seed, but it must come from a household that death has not touched. And the young woman said, my mother died, and I am here with my father caring for all of my younger siblings, as I know she would have liked me to do. Oh, I am sorry for your loss, said the woman, said Kisa. And the woman said, I'm sorry, I cannot help you find your special medicine. She went to house after house after house, only to hear the same story. There wasn't one house that she went to where a mother or a father, a son or a daughter, a grandparent, or relative has not passed. As the day ended and people turned their lights, lit their lights, she sat down on the street corner and looked into the face of her baby. And a softening came over her heart, and she knew what she had to do. When morning came, she had his funeral and she laid him to rest. And as she went back to the monastery, she said to the Buddha, I know now that there is no house that death has not touched, for it is the way of life. No one is free from the certainty of death. It is the way of all living things that we must sometime leave one another. Where is your child? He asked. I have laid him to rest, and though I grieve his loss greatly, I know now that it's the right thing to do, and I thank you for helping me to see that it's not just me suffering from loss and grief. Because you have helped me through your grief, I too wish to help others. And it is said that once Kisa Gotami returned to the monastery, she never left Buddha's side. Far from that experience, she was able to spend the rest of her lifetime offering comfort to others from the grief that she experienced, to help them through hers. And she knew that offering comfort was the key to helping to move through her own grief and living in community.
People are generous people. And people's people invite those around us to be generous as well. So I am going to turn around the video on my device right now and just show you what the comments looks like right now. You can see that's the bedding corner, and we have kitchen supplies and utensils, and we have furniture and mattresses and so many chairs. And over here, we have the cleaning products and the toiletries and all of the things you might need to make a life for yourself. And all of these things have been gathered, some by people's people, but most from people that we don't know at all, to help people from Afghanistan make new lives in our community. It has been amazing to witness. Every day every Monday through Thursday from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, there is a constant stream of folks saying, I have plates, I have dishes, I have furniture. Every day, the UPS delivery truck and the FedEx delivery truck and the US mail delivery truck and the Amazon delivery truck show up with boxes. People are sending brand new mattresses. People are sending I think all of Kalamazoo's toothpaste supply is currently in our commons. It is amazing. And in these times that have been challenging for a variety of reasons, when we can't be in our commons because it would not be safe to gather like we used to, it has been so inspiring to watch it fill up with this part of our mission, with helping folks who helped our country in Afghanistan, who are in the process of getting resettled, and we don't know exactly when they would arrive. I can't give that answer yet. Make a life for themselves here and have at least the objects they need to feel at home. And we know that the community and the support and all of the casework and all of that they will also need will come to. So it's amazing. And so thank you for being part of it. Thank you for being a community that trusts a few key leaders to say yes when this call comes on a Friday afternoon and from Samaritas and we're not sure if we can do it. It has been really something. And I am so grateful to everybody who has stepped up in all sorts of ways to make this happen. And if you would like to continue this work, we are about to start the work of sorting this stuff into household size groups. So if that speaks to you, reach out and we can put you to work. But mostly, I just want to say thank you for being a church where we can try big, hard, new things, where volunteers show up and where people from beyond our immediate community know us as people who are doing good and important work in the world. It is no small thing. So continue to be the generous people that you are and support the good and important work of this congregation.
There at the table with my head in my hands, a column of numbers I just could not understand. You said add these together, carry the two. Now you can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. At a cold winter station, breathing into our gloves, it would change me forever, leaving for God knows what. You carried my bags. You said I'll wait for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. Late at night I called and you answered the phone. The worst, it had happened, and I did not want to be alone. You quietly listened. You said we'll see this through. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. Here we stand breathless and pressed in hard times. Hearts hung like laundry on backyard clotheslines. Impossible takes just a little more time. From the muddy ground comes a green volunteer. In a place we thought barren, new life appears. Morning will come whistling some comforting tune for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
Giving thanks for all that sustains us, for the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance. We bring these small portions to share in the works of love, which none of us can accomplish alone.
Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed. May the weary find rest. May the sick be tended. May the dying and those who love them find peace. And may the joyous be shielded. And may all of us know that we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists.
Hello. For our meditation today, we are going to use some of the practices from my grandmother's hands again. Racialized Trauma and the Pathways to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies by Resmaa Menakem. He talks about his grandmother and how she used to just innately rock and hum as ways to cope with the challenges she experienced in her life and move trauma through her body. So I invite you to do a few of these exercises with me today. Let us begin by taking some deep belly breaths with these words from Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in, and breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, my breath grows deep, and breathing out, my breath grows slow. Breathing in, I dwell in the present moment, and breathing out, I know that this is a wonderful moment. I invite you, if you wish, to place your hand on your belly to notice if your abdomen rises and falls with deep breaths as you invite some deep breaths. Focus your attention on the center of your belly behind your navel. Breathe in deeply and slowly, following your breath as it flows in and through your nose and down your throat, into and through your lungs as your abdomen rises, and back out again. Keep following it as it flows back in and out. As you do this, I invite you to notice what you feel in your body right now. Any sensations or perhaps pain or tightness. Just notice those with curiosity and note them with compassion. And now you may wish to move your hand. You can leave it on your belly or move it to your heart or place it on the back of your neck as you take a few more deep breaths, and notice if that provides any calming or comfort to your nervous system this morning. Since sound is a way that can move trauma and stress through our bodies, I invite you to perhaps just exhale very loudly, or hum. Tone, or maybe even buzz, letting your tongue rest gently behind the top row of your teeth, relaxing your jaw and allowing your mouth to hang open, breathing out slowly and firmly as you exhale, making a buzzing sound almost like a bee. Extend the buzz and the exhalation as strong as you can without strain or discomfort. Repeat this for several breaths. Experiment with different tones, volumes and vibrations until you find what feels most comfortable for you. Notice how it feels in your body. And finally, I invite you to just invite a gentle rocking motion. Forward and backward, or side to side, whatever feels best for you. You can combine this with making a sound, a hum, or a buzz, or just by itself. And as you do this, I just invite you to notice your body. Notice again that any places of tightness or tension or pain or discomfort or lightness and ease, whatever sensations you experience, and just notice if there's a shift as you take these few minutes to breathe and settle your body in these ways. And as we come back to the present moment, may we just offer a silent nod of thanks and gratitude for our bodies and the ways that they serve us, and the miraculousness of all the systems that work in them. Blessed be.
There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we lost. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we lost. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. We rest in this love.
The first reading this evening by Barbara Crooker is entitled, "Sometimes I'm Startled Out of Myself," like this morning when the wild geese came squawking, flapping their rusty hinges, and something about their trek across the sky made me think about my life, the places of brokenness, the places of sorrow, the places where grief has strung me out dry. And then the geese come calling, the leader falling back when tired, another taking her place. Hope is born on wings. Look at the trees. They turn gold for a brief while, then lose it all each November. Through the cold months they stand, take the worst weather has to offer, and still they put out shy green leaves come April, come May. These geese glide over the cornfields, land on the pond with its sedges and its reeds. You do not have to be wise. Even a goose knows how to find shelter where the corn still lies in the stubble and the dried stalks. All we do is pass through here the best we can. They stitch up the sky and it is whole again. The second reading is by Rumi, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house and empty its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Our next reading is Blessing for the Brokenhearted by Jan Richardson, and it begins with a quote from Henry David Thoreau. There is no remedy for love, but to love more. Let us agree for now that we will not say the breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Let us promise we will not tell ourselves time will heal the wound when every day our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for now, it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating, as if it were made for precisely this, as if it knows the only cure for love is more of it, as if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still, as if it trusts that its own persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child. shared with friends, they will linger on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see even to question truly is an answer.
There was so much bad news that many of us were left feeling pummeled and disturbed, Anne Lamott wrote years ago in a passage from her book, Grace, eventually, that I've returned to a lot in this pandemic season. She continues, parents and relatives died, kids got into much more serious trouble, and way too many friends got a bad diagnosis. What can you say when people call with a scary or heartbreaking prognosis? You say that we don't have to live alone with our worries and losses, that all the people in their tide pool will be there for them. You say that it totally sucks and that grace abounds. You can't say things will be fine down the road because that holds the spiritual authority of someone chirping no worries at Starbucks, or my favorite, it's all good at the market. It's so not all good, and I'm worried sick. She continues, it's fine to know, but not to say that in some inadequate and surprising ways, things will be semi-okay. The way wildflowers spring up at the rocky dirt line where the open space meadow meets the road, where the ground is so mean. Just as it's fine to know, but not to say that anger is good, a bad attitude is excellent, and the medicinal powers of shouting and complaining cannot be overstated. While I might argue with the final sentence, I believe in the temporary power of anger, bad attitudes, shouting, and complaining. This passage holds truth for me. When we are moving through hard things, we support each other, and we trust that there might be little pieces of beauty in the midst of the pain. About a month ago, I thought that moving through strong emotions would be a good focus for our community today. I'd spoken with many people's people and was just keenly aware of the burdens of anger and sadness and frustration and despair that so many of us are carrying now. So I started to gather together some quotes from philosophers and thinkers about the nature of sadness and anger. I was thinking that today would be thoughtful, intellectual, pastoral. And then the last 3 weeks happened. We had 2 deaths in our congregation, one of them unexpected. We have had a few people in various crises. I sent my eldest to in-person school for the first time in a year and a half and got a notice that someone who later tested positive for the coronavirus was in his school building on that very first day of school, which made the impossible choices that I face as a parent of young children feel even more impossible. There are struggles in my personal tide pool that I'm trying to be present for and offer support. And the ongoing challenge that is existing in this pandemic when there seems to be so little concern for the common good in our country. It's all too much. Many of us are in the thick of too much. And while the details are different for each of us, there's a lot of anger, fear, worry, and stress. And I know that's not true for everyone here. If that is not true for you, I hope you are able to protect your joy, your contentment, your hope for as long as possible. And I invite you to file away what I say here for the next hard season that comes to you. So I have a couple of quotes in this sermon, but we're not doing a lot of insight from great thinkers today. That sermon might happen another day. What feels true for me is to share with you the things that have helped me through the last few weeks to remain somewhat grounded, mostly in touch with my own integrity. And I trust that at least a few of these ideas will work for you. And maybe you know them already, but sometimes it is just the right thing to hear something you already know to be true in someone else's voice. So I offer some things. And if you have strategies or practices that have helped you weather hard times, I invite you to write them in the comments or send me an email or a postcard. I want to know them for the next time a hard season comes for me. So my first piece of advice is to feel your feelings. Is it anger or fear, sadness or overwhelm? Notice where they live in your body and feel them. This might mean slowing down enough to feel them. Be present to your own self. And make sure it's really the feeling that you think it is. Because of our culture, people with marginalized identities might have trouble naming that what they feel is anger. And people with dominant identities might have a harder time with fear. And be as specific as you can. What exactly are you sad about or fearful of? In this challenging moment, so much of the emotion can feel untethered and hard to name. As Jalaluddin Rumi instructs in the poem Becky read to us, whatever the emotions, welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. I haven't figured out how to treat fear honorably, but I'm working on it. Recently, I was talking with a mentor and said I was feeling afraid. She asked me what specifically I was afraid of. And then we made a list together of my specific fears. It helped to see them laid out in writing. There were some that I could take action to lessen, some I couldn't, but the act of putting words to the feelings and transforming them from a swirling jumble in my body into a neat list in a notebook helped them seem less overwhelming. So I offer that practice to you. Next, I invite you to be a good steward of your attention and your energy. If you're in the midst of struggle, You can't do as many things as you previously could. Set things aside. Say no. Put things off or cancel them altogether. We've had a lot of takeout and cereal for dinner at my house recently, and I've stepped back from a few projects that others are carrying forward. When my well of empathy is low, to be the parent and partner and minister and family member and friend I want to be, I need to not expend my care on things beyond the circle that I can reach. For me, part of this is limiting my news consumption. I scan headlines occasionally and trust that that is enough. I know that the news will be there for me whenever I'm ready. I know that giving the news my attention doesn't change anything. And so I'm trying to give what limited energy I can to places and people and situations where I have the power to ease pain and cultivate love. I'll tune back in at some point. And so I give you permission, if it is useful at all to have this permission given by me, to be thoughtful about what gets your attention and energy. Maybe limiting something that isn't the news is the right path for you. Next, rituals and spiritual practices are powerful ways to ground and move through strong emotions like grief, anger, or fear. Sometimes I get so busy in times of stress that I don't make time for the practices that ground me. So I've been working to make that time. Creating new rituals that speak to a moment is also powerful. At the beginning of the pandemic, I brought out from my basement 2 candlesticks that my great-great-grandparents received as a wedding gift. We light them every night with dinner, even when it's cereal, and we take a moment to reflect on the endurance, or I take a moment, my kids are eating their cereal, I take a moment to reflect on the endurance and survival of my ancestors. This morning on the church grounds, we had several rituals to name and work through hard emotions, including writing what we were grieving on pieces of a paper heart and using Band-Aids to put the pieces back together. We smashed plates and bowls and mugs. We did mindful movements. We placed stones into the church bird bath for joys and sorrows. Maybe you can find a way to use one of those practices the next time you need to, or adapt it to suit your needs. I know a people's person for whom when the worries of the world get overwhelming, goes to the lake and throws rocks into the water. They name a worry with each rock, and watching those rocks sink beneath the surface helps everything feel a little more manageable for them. Maybe there's something like that you can try. My next piece of advice is to be in community. Talk to people you care about and who care about you. Name when you're struggling. Find an expert if that's who you need. These past few weeks have been made so much more manageable for me because of the support of the UU Trauma Response Ministry. I've been working with 4 UU experts on traumatic events in congregations, and their guidance has been invaluable. They have been on my speed dial and been in contact with our religious educator and led groups for people in the church who are struggling. Being on Zoom with other folks who are struggling is helpful. There's something about just being reminded that we're not the only ones who are having a hard time in the moment, who are forgetting to eat or struggling to function in some way. There's power in naming what is hard and realizing we are not so alone. It doesn't fix everything. Not at all, but it makes things a little bit more bearable and that is important. Poet and professor Ross Gay has a wonderful book called The Book of Delights. Every day for a year, he wrote a short essay about something that delights him. The best were collected in a book. And for one of his entries, he writes about the power of community to make sadness more bearable. He writes, "Among the most beautiful things I've ever heard anyone say comes from my student Bethany, talking about her pedagogical aspirations or ethos, which means how she wanted to be a teacher and what she wanted her classroom to be. What if we joined our wildernesses together?" Sit with that for a minute. That the body, the life might carry a wilderness, an unexplored territory, and that yours and mine might somewhere, somehow meet, might even join. Gay continues, and what if the wilderness, perhaps the densest wild in there, thickets, bogs, swamps, uncrossable ravines and rivers, have I made the metaphor clear, is our sorrow? It astonishes me sometimes, no, often, how every person I get to know, everyone, regardless of everything, by which I mean everything, lives with some profound personal sorrow. Brother addicted, mother murdered, dad died in surgery, rejected by their family, cancer came back, evicted, fetus not okay. Every, regardless, always of everything. Not to mention the existential sorrow we all might be afflicted with, which is that we and what we love will soon be annihilated. Which sounds more dramatic than it might. Let me just say dead. In this sorrow of which our impending being no more might be the foundation, is that the great wilderness? Is sorrow the true wild? And if it is, and if we join them, your wild to mine, what's that? For joining too is a kind of annihilation. What if we joined our sorrows, I'm saying? I'm saying, he concludes, what if that is joy? There is a joy that comes from joining our sorrows, our wildernesses together. It's the inadequate, surprising, semi-okay joy that Anne Lamott describes. Wildflowers springing up at the rocky dirt line where the open space meadow meets the road. Sometimes that sort of joy is all we can manage. We also need to pursue other, less complicated joy. When things are hard, seek out joy on purpose. Don't wait for it to surprise you. In recent weeks, I've returned to a sitcom that I love, watching an episode or two every night before bed. Laughing out loud at the end of the day helps. I found other small things that give me joy. A favorite meal, looking at all of the amazing outfits people wore to the Met Gala this week. Even a temporary fleeting joy can help rebalance us, give us the strength to keep going in the hard times. And if joy is hard to find for you right now, I offer you some optional homework. I mentioned the Book of Delights earlier, which is just a book of things that are delightful. So it's a poet writing prose about things that are good, mostly in the natural world. I read it during my sabbatical, and it helped me cultivate an eye for joy and pay better attention to the tiny moments of beauty and connection that are there if we stop to notice. So maybe you try these things. Feeling and naming feelings, ritual and spiritual practice, seeking community, being a good steward of your attention, and finding joy. and you are still overwhelmed. Some times are like that. You might still have trouble taking care of yourself and meeting the responsibilities of your life. And if that's true, it's probably time for more support. Talk to me, and I might be able to connect you to a good resource, whether that's within our congregation or beyond. And if you have a resource or a source of support in your life to share, the name of a therapist or a counselor, a book, a support group, a practice, something else that has been useful to you, please pass them along to me. I'm always looking for more resources to connect people in our church community to the best possible care and support. There is a lot to hold for many of us right now. Too much for some. And this is the time we have been given. So I close today returning to the words we used to light our chalice. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you that everything is okay right now, that there is no reason to be angry, that you must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend these things, and so I won't tell them to you. And so all I ask in this moment is that we remember the words of Rebecca Parker. There is a love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all. By the light of our chalice, let us rest in this love. There is love in this community, in our sources of reason and radiance, courage and compassion, in that still small voice that encourages us to keep going, in the beauty that unfolds around, between, within, and among us. May that be enough to carry us through for now. May it be so. May we make it so, and amen.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
So, dear ones, whatever you are feeling in this moment, I invite you to turn to your spiritual practices. I invite you to connect with your communities. I invite you to be good stewards of your attention. And I invite you to seek out joy on purpose. So let us go in peace and go in love.